Okay, so I'm gonna try to do a video here to share some information. A few nights ago, I was sitting there and it popped into my head to type in uh, quantum computers, CERN, and demons into the search engine. And when I did, I came up with this very interesting blog, which I'm going to read to you. And there's kind of a point, a creepy point to this that I will try to tie all in together, and I will leave links to these articles and stuff below. So, anyways, the blog that I came up with is called, bear with me, this is my first time doing this, and it's annoying. I'm also reading from the computer as it videos me. Anyways, it's called the Illuminati Conspiracy Blog, a running commentary on the end of Western civilization as we know it. AI computers will contain demons. Geordie Rose is one of those personages whose appointed place is to introduce new, powerful, and revolutionary technology into our society. As such, he is amongst one of the princes of this civilization, like Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, etc., who've skyrocketed to fame, fortune, and accomplishment overnight, seemingly out of nowhere, and led the way to a new threshold. Now, Geordie Rose is the founder of Kindred, a company whose purpose is to build computers with human-like intelligence, and D-Wave, a corporation whose business is building and selling quantum computers. D-Wave uses NASA JPL, or Jet Propulsion Laboratories technology, spelled DARPA government technology, to help produce the micro devices, qubits, quantum chips, which supposedly go into these quantum computers. You could say both Kindred and D-Wave are basically in the same business, building artificial intelligence, or AI. And Rose, the squirmy gnome-like jet black-looking character, seems to be totally impetuous and unable to keep himself from starting more companies, from which he eventually steps away to pursue starting even more companies. He's already started a third corporation called Sanctuary to license Kindred's patents and software to computer companies all over the world. Kindred's patents. It occurred to me, I wonder if Kindred has anything to do with the new CV-19 vaccines. And so I typed in, and you'd be surprised. Kindred has just signed an agreement, a partnership with Vaxart, a manufacturing agreement with Vaxart to create a new CV-19 vaccine. Anyways, we'll get back to that. I'm going to go on and read some more from this article. Based in Burnaby, British Columbia, the focused purpose of building machines with human-like intelligence, D-Wave is the first company in the world to produce computers using quantum physics. Geordie Rose is not only one of the founders, but also the chief technology officer to D-Wave, which is beginning to sell the first commercially available quantum computers at $10 million each. So let's get it straight. A quantum computer is one step above a supercomputer and exponentially more expensive. And Geordie Rose is at the top of the revolutionary new quantum computing phenomenon. So if there's anyone to go to, Geordie Rose is the person worth listening to if you want to know about how a quantum computer really works. And that really is an important point, because few people seem to know how a quantum computer works, and I don't purport to be one of them. But the one thing which always got my attention since I've been studying about quantum physics is the hocus-pocus, magic-like quality of it. Simply put, quantum physics does not seem to make sense, and a lot of it, to put it frankly, seems incredible, magical, and even miraculous. All of the quantum scientists seem giddy at its prospects. The one who I had the luck to meet responded to my incomprehension with the comment, "Well, that's just because you don't understand it yet." For some reason, it was the yet that really haunted me. When would the yet occur? Would I one day wake up and suddenly understand and accept all the hocus pocus of quantum theory? Would I understand the magic? Would I see the light? It was at this time that I began to suspect quantum theory was more a religion than simple scientific theory, and if one had to join it in order to understand. The movie What the Bleep Do We Know from 2004 and its follow-up What the Bleep Down the Rabbit Hole 2006 expressed this magical thinking in regards to quantum physics. By the time CERN came online, along with its scientists, I was convinced quantum physics was more a religion than a scientific theory, and its almost magical effects are being carried out by some as yet unknown force. All of these CERN scientists have the same giddy quality I see in more and more quantum physicists. Just look at these CERN scientists trying to talk. They can't help but start flashing a smile when they can hardly suppress. To me, they seem mildly deranged and in touch with some force they can't or aren't allowed to discuss, and yet can't help but brim with barely contained excitement of what seems like a permanent orgasm. These people seem so completely absorbed in whatever they are doing that I'm sure whatever it is, they would not hesitate to do it regardless of what the consequences might be. It's the same quality I see in Geordie Rose. The guy can hardly contain himself as he brims with barely contained excitement and wonder. I guess it's like the Los Alamos scientist behaved on the eve of detonating the first atomic bomb. Do we have the quantum equivalent of an atomic bomb coming up in our near future? Is this new quantum detonation what all these CERN scientists are so giddy about these days? What have they seen that we haven't? What are they expecting? I'm almost afraid to ask. But one can't deny that Geordie Rose has seen it and is very excited about it. So excited, in fact, that he isn't or wasn't able to keep the secret entirely to himself. And I say wasn't because he's now gone silent, even about all the future commercial projects. You see, Geordie Rose has now gone dark, and he went dark, that is, silent, right after he began spewing all the facts about what quantum computers really are and how they work. You see, Geordie Rose seems to have received a warning from the top to shut up about the mechanics of quantum computers, but not before his revelations became a part of the permanent public record through YouTube. In the meantime, just trying to find out stuff about Geordie Rose on the Wikipedia or the internet or anywhere. He was like a flash that just happened, started saying a lot of important, groundbreaking things, and then seemed to disappear into silent exile. As far as I know, Geordie Rose is alive and well and still dedicated to his mission of making the use of quantum computers widespread in society, although more recently he's been much more tight-lipped and conservative in his public remarks, especially as to how it all works. I can see why. In short, his mouth now remains silent, at least on the shocking stuff he revealed in the first of these heady days of quantum computing commercialization, while the CEO of D-Wave, Vernon Brownell, is a former employee of Goldman Sachs. And how much do you want to bet Rose also has affiliations to Goldman Sachs? Says he plans to connect cloud computing to quantum computers. Now, there are several YouTube videos analyzing Geordie Rose's speech before scientists, but so far I've seen no written account. And it is an account I think needs to be heard and understood and thought about in detail. You see, what Geordie Rose told us that evening was how quantum computers really work. And the truth of the matter is this: can you really handle the truth? Society supplies a myriad of ways you can avoid reality and pretend it isn't happening, but I suggest you don't do that at this time. And before going on to this reality, let me restate the facts. Geordie Rose is a Jew who supplied the money behind D-Wave, a company with probable affiliations to Goldman Sachs. And although he likes to display himself as a collegiate mathematical genius instead of an entrepreneur or the Jew with the money, he openly calls himself Money Man behind the whole operation. Jews or crypto Jews supplying the money and taking credit for the work of others is as old as Thomas Alva Edison, Bill Gates, and Steve Jobs. You see, under the Kabbalistic Jewish magic, the conversion of money into genius is as real as turning paper into gold or creating money out of nothing, which Jews do regularly through central banking. almost want to stop here because I don't know if they'll even let me upload this video on YouTube because of the few words there that I said. But I'm going to continue on. I'm going to see if it will pass. I'm just reading from an article. These are not my thoughts or views. Okay. So, but to start off right from the outset, Rose seems giddy and barely unable to contain himself. It's obvious he's seen and or experienced something incredible, which he is unable to communicate to a general audience in such a short time. Meanwhile, D-Wave has sold its computers to a very small yet well-funded group of buyers, NASA, Google, and the University of California. He tries to explain, AI can do anything a human can do, only better. All right, we can see the economic possibilities in that. Then Jordy adds that not only will AI do a better job, but that it will be purchasable. In other words, widely available and fully integrated part of society. Finally, he admits that in his giddy fashion that quantum works by having the quantum computers access parallel universes, which give his computers an advantage. Short clarification here. A parallel universe is an existent reality that exists simultaneously with our own, yet is hidden. Heaven or hell could be called parallel universes by the way of them existing, yet being unseen by our mortal eyes. By the same token, a possible future which is like ours, but very different in some outstanding respect, could be a parallel universe. As you can see, proving the existence of parallel universes is a challenge. It simply can't be done or hasn't been done yet. Have the scientists at CERN and Geordie Rose stumbled across proof of parallel universes? Geordie Rose mentions in the video that parallel universes are the very basis of quantum computing. It's at a point where the parallel universes where Jordy claims his company is able to gather resources and insert them into the qubit quantum chips of his computers. The scientists at CERN, on the other hand, seem to be convinced that they are interacting with visitors from a parallel universe or of a possible future. Is this for real, or is this part of a great deception? Are Geordie Rose and the CERN scientists really interacting with entities from parallel universes or with demons? As Geordie Rose expands his description, the description began to become frightening. He compares to what's coming to an alien invasion with mind-blowing consequences for humanity. For example, he compares how governments would react to an interstellar communication which said where, when, and how the aliens would land on Earth. Rose says that in that case, the preparations would be enormous and historical, and that humanity is presently simply neglecting and ignoring the earth-shattering changes AI would bring to the Earth when it arrives. In fact, he compares the arrival of AI to an alien visitation or an alien invasion of the planet. This alone is shocking enough, but then he continues. He states that the physical manifestation of AI will be like aliens, and that the things that we are building or growing are not going to be like people. Well, what will they be like then, Jordy? In this concept, Geordie Rose has suddenly shifted from a mechanical concept of AI to a seemingly biological one. We're puzzled by this shift, thinking it might be some sort of misunderstanding, but Jordy pushes on. He refers to, of all things, H.P. Lovecraft and his great old ones. Now, H.P. Lovecraft wrote horror stories about demons and ancient creatures, the most famous of which is Cthulhu, an ancient creature with a mass of tentacles instead of a jaw. But Geordie Rose continues to push as if saying, yes, you heard right. You're not misunderstanding anything. He continues speaking of Lovecraft's massively intelligent entities and refers to them as these things we are summoning into the world now. Are we hearing statements of a corporate chairman or a raving lunatic? No, make no mistake. Jordy continues with a purpose. They are neither good nor evil, he states, but emphasizes that they are not demons and not particularly evil, but would not necessarily be aligned with what we want from them. In other words, they will be neither our servant nor our friends. And it gets worse. They just might, says an ebullient Geordie Rose, consider us like ants, and they might not give a shit about us and could, in fact, wipe us all out. At this point, Not only am I puzzled by Geordie's growing enthusiasms, but I'm starting to ask myself, so the profit and purpose in summoning these things is exactly what? And the answer I get is instinctively that there is no real constructive or sane reason. It's just being done because it can be done, either by destiny or genetics or the inevitability of human creativity. But I honestly and personally think there's something more Jordy is not telling us. What makes him so happy about these things? These creatures are being summoned and wiping us all out. Unless he himself has been promised something else entirely by these things, besides annihilation. But Jordy does not dwell too long on this concept of massively intelligent ancient creatures which we summon to serve us, but might annihilate us, even as he seems to notice he has just veered off into a very disturbing territory. So he tries to bring us back with his childlike giggles, while making his faces and quibbing, "We're hiring," and switching happily on to the next topic. They're actually opening portals to these other dimensions, gathering these things, or is it more like letting them in, and storing them inside quantum computers. Jordy tries to soften the pill by calling these things resources, which are gathered and used in his machines. The creep even waxes sentimental when he describes the sound of his machines make as being very similar to that of a human heartbeat. At this point, it's become obvious to him that he has said too much, and that his bosses must be watching, so he tries to veer off topic again, trying to distract us away from the matter, but only succeeding in adding more alarm. He insinuates that the Mandela effect was caused by accessing these other dimensions and basically changing reality. He then speaks of accessing other dimensions and universes from which they can and are bringing in these things. And then his line to me hits about AI being able to do everything we can do, only better. And finally, he blurts out that the robots will have to be biological. He says we will want to build machines like us, and then asks, is it possible? In a later interview, he restates his company's purpose to build intelligent machines, which are like us, like the Cylons of Battlestar Galactica, perhaps. In other words, a superior life form which could easily surpass and even replace us. He attempts to conceptually describe what the D-Wave quantum computer as the black monolith from, I think he means, 2001 Space Odyssey. A solid-state machine with no noticeable operating parts. It's becoming tellingly apparent that these quantum computers seem to be more like empty boxes with lights, similar to the penny arcade of the mechanical fortune tellers, which had a real human sitting inside them in order to fool the naive customers. Except in this case, what sits inside AI quantum computer is a real demon. The truth is that customers of these quantum computers, only rich national governments and corporations so far, have little or no idea just how they work. And of course, how they truly function is proprietary information, which is revealed to no one, while opening them up by the customer eliminates all the warranties, guarantees, and technical support which comes from D-Wave. Meanwhile, the deployment of D-Wave quantum computers is accompanied by a flurry of criticisms from computer experts who say the D-Wave is not what it purports to be. In 2007, Umesh Vazirani, professor at UC Berkeley, said their claimed speed up over classical algorithms appears to be based on a misunderstanding of a paper my colleagues Van Dam, Mosca, and I wrote on the power of adiabatic quantum computing, and that the speed up really does not hold in the setting at hand, and therefore D-Wave's quantum computer, even if it turns out to be a true quantum computer which can be scaled to thousands of qubits, would likely not be more powerful than a cell phone. Indeed, is that all they really are? Cell phones to the demonic world? Wim Van Dam, a professor at UC Santa Barbara, summarized his opinion as of 2008 in the journal Nature Physics. At the moment, it's impossible to say if D-Wave quantum computer is even intrinsically equivalent to a classical computer. A paper by scientists from ETH Zurich reportedly reporting a 128 qubit D-Wave computer, insisted the D-Wave was outperformed by regular digital computers, applying classical meta heuristics, particularly simulated annealing in a type of problem that the D-Wave computers were specifically designed to solve. In other words, the so-called quantum computers are nothing but a carnival trick, a deception, which are not at all what their makers say they are, and whose real power comes from the entity which inhabits them. But the scientists who made the above observations will never come close to even considering such a possibility, because to consider such a thing, one has to accept that demons are 1, incredibly ancient, 2, incredibly intelligent, 3, incredibly knowledgeable, beginning to sound like H.P. Lovecraft's Tulu, huh? Doesn't it? And 4, can see or find out things no matter how far or how secret. Finally, having run out of fascinating things to say, Geordie Rose let out one more mind-bending, shocking factoid. AI, that is, the demons, will eventually turn on us. Excuse me? But let's just overlook that unpleasant thought for the moment. Let's just sum up the fascinating news Jordy has for us. Ancient, massively intelligent creatures which resemble demons who are inside quantum computers don't give a shit about us and are likely to turn on us and wipe us out. How reassuring. You just revealed to us all that what AI has in store for all of humanity. Except in this case, what sits inside a quantum computer AI will be an actual demon, stored inside a hyper-cooled qubit quantum computer chip. Rose has already described this demonic or multi-demonic quantum computer as an alien god, and apparently the user must be patient. The D-Wave quantum computers are not very impressive right out of the box. They start small and weak like a baby, and then begin to grow in computing power exponentially as the demon accommodates itself to the world and begins to learn from the World Wide Web and the world itself. Meanwhile, the CEO of D-Wave, Vernon Brownell, is assuring everyone that D-Wave's computers and their demons will eventually become a shared resource, available to everyone through the miracle of cloud computing. No, only one reason to stay, one more reason to stay away from the net. Yeah, I'd say so. So below is a link to Jordy's complete presentation where he states all of the above. Do listen carefully. So, very, very interesting. Wow. Anyways, the beginning of this, we'll go back to the beginning, and he talks about one of Jordy's companies is called Kindred. So when you look up Kindred, you find that Bloomberg just announced that they have a manufacturing agreement with Vaxart to create a new COVID-19 vaccine. Vaxart is a clinical stage biotechnology company, and its oral recombinant vaccine candidate is based on the proprietary VAST platform. Like I say, I'll put the links below. So I was talking on the phone after I came across this blog and the fact that Kindred sorry about that. The fact that Kindred was involved in the vaccine, and he mentioned to me that Kindred has a relevance to vampires. So, believe it or not, I type in Kindred and I come up with this fandom link. Kindred. The Kindred are humans infected with one of the 5 strains of a mutagenic retrovirus called the Kindred virus. Although they call themselves Kindred, hold on, it keeps moving around. Although they call themselves Kindred, they're commonly known as vampires due to an anemia caused by genetic damage from the virus. Vampires feed on the blood of uninfected humans. Vampires are known mainly to bite a victim's neck, extracting the blood from the carotid artery. They use the term kindred to refer to all of humanity. So it goes on in this fandom article talking about, and I guess this is some sort of game, but it's just rather creepy. The kindred virus is not related to any known genus of virus or viroid. Due to its unique structure and protein composition, it's believed that the kindred virus is of extraterrestrial origin, brought to Earth by either a comet or a meteor. And it's very odd and well-evolved symbiotic retrovirus, which benefits its host in many ways rather than killing him or her. Newer viruses like Ebola virus show their lack of adaptation in the fact that they destroy their host, thereby running the risk of destroying themselves. A successful virus seeks symbiosis with its host and not destruction. Interesting. The complexity of the virus is staggering. The kindred virus in many ways resembles a very primitive virus called a prion. Most viruses cause disease by infiltrating the host systems, then attacking specific cells and replacing the DNA of the cell with a copy of their own, thus creating more viruses, which then attack more cells, and so on. The body of the host is then recognizes these infected cells as foreign matter, and immune system works to eradicate them. The kindred virus works in much the same way, except the virus attacks nearly all of the host systems and works to adapt rather than change the DNA within the cells, adding extra mini chromosomes called plasmids to the human DNA rather than replacing it completely. Anyways, this is just darn right creepy. So if you don't think that there are, none of this is by coincidence. None of it. Very interesting name, Jordy. Anyways, I don't even know what to say. It's insane. Welcome to the machine. Are you ready to merge with AI and be uploaded to the cloud? Because they're getting closer. And this Vaxart vaccine is a pill. It's not even an injection, but it works on the mucosal lining in the stomach. So, and don't think just because it's not an injection that it's not going to be doing what permanently altering your DNA. So I don't know what else to say. I'll put the links down. Share your thoughts with me. Let me know what you think.